here at UCSD what zero waste means to me, and what steps we're taking to reach our ambitious zero waste goals. So I'll be going out over promotions and communication, food and catering, zero waste, equity and accessibility, and then what you can do to sub out decorations and giveaways when you're hosting events. Here is what zero waste means to us at UCSD. We had a focus group and we had a poll of what sustainability and zero waste means to our events team, and most everyone always goes towards like less waste, reuse, eliminating waste, planning ahead, conservation, having that community, having low carbon imprint, and zero waste events aren't just focused on waste. I know it's like really focused on the waste piece, but there's other things that you can do that are zero waste and sustainability focused, and I'll go over those in this presentation. And we rely heavily on the inverted triangle of refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot, which means composting at the end before it goes to landfill. And what is a green event? So green events are intentional about incorporating sustainable practices into event planning and execution, thinks of sustainability as a forethought versus an afterthought, and serves as an example to others as a catalyst for promoting a culture of sustainability. So I did provide a link to our green events resource list that we have put together here on campus as we work on revamping our green events program. And we also know that we have events that happen year round of different sizes and scales involving different departments. So we made this list where you can go and it has hyperlinks to find alternatives or best practices for zero waste events here on campus. And that's if somebody can drop that in the chat or share it later. I'll be going over the list in this presentation. So the first item on there is promotions and communication. So sending invitations, emails, electronically, not sending, flyers. We tend to not favor giving out flyers like down Library Walk or anywhere where you do tabling, opting for like a QR code that where people can use their phones and sign up for your event that way. It is much more cost effective, and it also doesn't use as many resources. If you must have printed material, choose a paper that has been 70% recycled. And it would be a good idea to require attendees to RSVP. So if you are providing food, you have a good head count, and then you don't have much leftover food at the end of your event. And that's a big one, to have people RSVP if you are providing food, and then also incorporate alternative modes of transportation prior to the event, so people can come to your event. And this is what it looks like if you do via email with colleagues, and sending out the details, highlighting, for lunch, if it will be provided. We prefer plant-based lunch with water, coffee, and tea. And since it is a zero waste event, that we are committing to sourcing recyclable, compostable, and reuse items, and encourage them to BYOB, bring your own bottle, because we will be having coffee stations and water stations for the people that attend. And then having the links and resources for shuttle. So if they shuttle or trolleys, so they can get to the location in a more sustainable way. So that is something that we do here on campus to ensure that we are hosting a sustainable event. And with food and catering, we've seen a lot of positives with having a buffet style meal instead of having like boxed lunches or individually packaged, because it reduces the overall packaging. And then having a menu that is plant-based, as we all know, that has a way less carbon footprint if instead of like meat and animal-based meals. But if you do have to select the meat, choosing poultry or fish over red meats, and then having a plan for leftovers. So when we do catering as part as our order, we do have a like compostable to-go boxes that we put there. Some people are coming to the event on their lunch break, or they're not able to stay the whole hour, so they'll come and get their lunch and they'll leave, and they can take some leftovers with them. And at the end of the event, we are not wasting food or having it to go to the compost, so we can pack it up with the attendees as they leave the event. And then having specific signage when they are lining up for their meal. So having food scraps, the compostable containers that are approved, I'll go over that in a later slide. Napkins and tea bags, everything that you procure, making sure they can go into the compost, and putting signs at where they pick up their food. That makes disposal at the bins much easier. And if you're opening up for discussion while they're having their lunch, you can get the mic or tell everyone, like, hey, our team went through the effort to procure all approved compostable items. So everything you're eating off of, if you're not doing reusable, of course, everything you're eating off of can go into the compost. That makes it a lot easier when they go to the zero waste stations. If they have a dirty plate with a little bit of food, they just throw away their disposable utensils, their plate, and their food in one bin. The sorting it out, like, oh, that foil can't go there, and this plastic fork can't go there, it just backs everybody up at the line. We created this list that is very specific to our campus. UC-wide has one that is more open to most haulers, but we have an anaerobic digester that all of our compost goes to. So from start to finish, the process is about 3 weeks, which means that most compostable items don't break down within that time frame that we need in order to make a good byproduct. So we've sampled actually we sampled a lot of compostable items with our hauler, and this is an approved list. I just took a screenshot. We have a lot, it's a lot more extensive, but that's what works for our campus. I know down at Petco Park, they can take PLAs, which is bioplastics made from plants, avocado seeds or whatnot. They go to a traditional windrow facility where their compost breaks down like 7 to 10 weeks, so they can have more of the PLAs in their waste, in their compost stream, different from us. So I want to fast forward 10 years when we solve this compostable materials puzzle, because we're having to pivot and reteach, and people are trying to do the best they can by buying event plates and forks that are marketed compostable, but they're really not compostable unless they work with the infrastructure your college is supported by. So I think that is one of the biggest obstacles that you run into when you're trying to do a true zero waste event. If you have to use disposables because you probably don't have like a sink or the volunteers to use reusables, look into your hauler and what they accept in their composting to then purchase what you need for your event. And for zero waste, procurement is the number one thing. If you have a small event, it could be a week or two. If you have a larger event, maybe about a month in advance. Meet with your hauler or your zero waste team to make sure if you are buying disposable, compostable materials that they are approved. If you have it in your budget or want to invest in reusables, going to a thrift store, they have really good glassware that you can buy for maybe a smaller event. And then having adequate signage and having specific signage to the event is also really helpful. For example, we had like an aloha picnic event for an all staff picnic over the summer, and we put exactly what we were serving, like the snow cone, the like compostable plate, because people want to see the pictures. This takes it to another step, but if you're planning ahead and you have the signs from where they pick up their food, it makes it really easy when they're at the bins trying to read the signs and make the right decision. If you tell them when they pick up their food and you took the time to make specific signage for that event. I know it's not feasible for all, but if you have a team and you can do the adequate signage and specific signage, we've seen really good results with that. And then having zero waste stations, I'll go over that in the next slides. Our team has a form where you have your zero waste bins. We show up, we help you sort, and then keep the waste sorted as it travels from the zero waste event bins to the appropriate disposal dumpster. So if you don't talk to your custodial or your volunteers, you do all this effort, and when they pick up the bins, the liners to take it out to the containers, if they didn't sort it with adequate liners to know what's trash, what's recycling, what's compost, all of your efforts are, they're no good because they get either mixed up, contaminated, or don't make it into the correct bin. So those are big, big on the zero waste. So this is what we have: a simple Google Forms that we share on campus with our events team, different colleges that want to have zero waste events when they have an event. So we send out a link that captures data. So is it an event, or do they want a permanent bin? So we kind of use this for research to see where we're generating events, and maybe we need a permanent bin there. And we ask questions like, how big is the event? When is your event? We tell them like we need about 2 weeks for 2 weeks ahead headway for a 20 to 100 person event. If it's 200 to 500, we need about a month, and we have a meeting with them on if they're serving food, what they're procuring, what kind of giveaways, so we know what to see in the waste stream. Yeah. And then if we have zero waste ambassadors to go to the event, then we schedule them to drop off, pick up, and take the waste after the event if it is an event of size that our team can handle. And these are the standard signage that we use all over campus. It has a QR code that takes you to our zero waste page. So that's pretty straightforward. Having consistent signage: green for compost, blue for recycling, gray for landfill. Some people have like different color, brown for compost. You could do brown for compost if your entire campus does brown for compost. It's just having that consistent signage. Because most people don't look at the signs, they look at the color. And more importantly, they don't look at the sign, they look at what's already in the bin. So if your bin is already contaminated, just swap the liner out as soon as possible, as people see, oh, if there was food in the recycle, they just look in there and then they just follow what they see. They don't read the signs as much unless you have somebody there in front of the bins helping sort, which is what we do. This is one of our zero waste ambassadors helping out an event in the library where they have a loaner cart. That's what they call it. You check it out and it has reusable mugs. And then you have the dirty dishes, you put it there and they wash it. And then at this event, they could choose if you wanted a reusable plate or a compostable plate. Some people were just coming in for lunch and like went back to their offices. Most of the reusables were used and then compost to go. And having somebody in front of the bins is really helpful because it's like pop quiz for everybody walking up. They're like making sure that they're putting it into the right location. And then equity and accessibility, so arrange transportation for disabled guests attending the event, cart or shuttle services at least 2 weeks in advance for the event, and then any allergies, dietary restrictions in the RSVP form, and whenever possible, make it free to attend. I know it's not always possible, but that will ensure that it is equitable, accessible, and as sustainable as possible. We do have a trolley system that goes through our campus and it connects La Jolla to downtown. So we have we have a U-Pass for all of our students and staff to be able to use the trolley system. And we also have buses that do loops around campus to move you around as well. And then decorations and giveaways. Utilize natural decorations such as succulents and centerpieces instead of like maybe floral arrangements that die. That means somebody can take them after the event. Investing in decorations that could be used for future events. So maybe some tablecloths. The ones that we use a lot is the name tags. Instead of having like sticker name tags, it's like a little whiteout name tag where people write their name on there with a dry erase marker. Avoid balloons. I don't like balloons. I know balloons are cool for kids' parties, but they're really bad for the environment. They're plastic. They're expensive now. Like to get an arrangement is like $900 for a balloon. So we'll save the budget there. So no balloons. Avoid plastic tape, table coverings. Using reusable name tags and choosing sustainable giveaways. Try to give away things people actually want, because then they take things and I don't know, it goes in their junk drawer. So giving away like metal straws is good. Kids love stickers on their water bottles. This first one is a floral arrangement that one of the colleges worked with our landscape team to reuse the eucalyptus trees and coyote bush trimmings that we do normally, and they made arrangements for an event. So that's a good way to use what's already going into our green waste here and put it, and they look pretty. And then the name tag with that you write down. So those are just ideas. That's what UC is doing, and the program is still developing, but there's we are continuously getting better. And if you take anything away from my presentation today, is that focus on progress, not perfection. I feel like when you're hosting an event and there's all these other things you have to do and logistically, and you want to make it zero waste, as long as you're making a step towards zero waste in any of these things that I talked about, you're 1% better than you were before. By the time you know it, you'll be, 50% better and increase your diversion. And when people come to your event, they'll learn from you. And when they're hosting an event, they might take those best practices and incorporate them into into what they do. So that's what I have for you. There's my contact information. I'm sure it would be shared. And the list that I went through with some of the resources will also be shared.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. That was just amazing information. And before we get to Derek's presentation, there was a question that came through that's specific just to you, Elizabeth. Do you know if at UC SD, when you catering, if the catering company sources these products, when you guys utilize them, or is that something that they need to specially request?
So if you go, there's two ways you can do catering on campus. We do our own catering, and if you ask for a zero waste event, it costs a little bit more, but we make sure that it's sourced correctly, that the compostable containers that they use can go into the compost. They bring in all of their waste and take it out, so it makes it a lot easier. It's just we pay a little bit more for the compostable plates, the service of taking your compost back. But if somebody wants to have that zero waste event and be compliant with SB 1383 and all the other regulations, we do offer that. For areas that bring outside vendors, that is where we see that they're bringing items that don't go into our compost. So, for example, down at Birch, which hosts the Birch Aquarium, which hosts a lot of events where they hire outside vendors. They're working on their vendor agreement that they have to use X, Y, and Z if they're going to have disposable serveware. So we're working on that. Of course, no plastic bags and no styrofoam. That one is a hard no. You cannot bring that on campus. It's banned in San Diego and it's banned on campus. So letting our vendors know that those are our expectations. So there's two routes that you can go. If you go internally, we've already taken care of it. If you have an external vendor, we're working on having those contracts because we have different teams that can contract out through vendors. So just getting to every team that contracts out and having those expectations is where we currently are.
Awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
Um, Derek, we're all ready to hear about some more great green initiatives.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessica, and welcome. Thanks for having me, everybody. It's good to be here. I'm just going to share my screen really quickly, and we'll jump into what's happening at CSU-MB. So um, before we change slides here, I found this awesome picture just when I was randomly looking online. And I think this really highlights one of the main points that I want to get across today is just we need to make sustainability a fun and in-your-face part of events. I'm sure for all the event planners out there, you all know getting people's attention, getting them to come to events is super hard. And so drawing in people's attention with, all of the catchy phrases and marketing and appearance of things and all of that, draws people into events. That's the same thing for sustainability. And so having some fun with it, doing it in a way that gets people talking about it and really is eye-catching at events is an amazing way to show your attendees the hard work that you put in behind the scenes to plan for a sustainable event. Something that I've done both at UC Santa Cruz and at CSU-MB is for major events, making sure that we have people out at the zero waste stations to tell attendees what to do. It's not always the most glamorous or fun job. So again, that idea of adding in some fun to it, we call them trash talkers. And we have trash talker t-shirts that people wear. And so when they're at the event and they see this t-shirt that says trash talker on it, people get excited and have a little fun with it and think it's a really fun play on words. And so something like that just showcases, how we can have some fun with this and draw people in at the same time. So at CSU-MB, we have several key players in the sustainable events space. We first have our University Affairs, Ceremonies, and Events Office, also known as UACE on campus. And UACE are our main event planners that are in charge of our event spaces. And so they work with the offices and departments and students and groups who want to put on events. And so they are key in making sure that our event spaces are reserved and the proper IT equipment is set up and the room is set up in the way that it's supposed to be. But they also play a very large role in helping us to promote sustainable events. And then my office, we are here to help, answer questions, share best practices, talk with event planners, give them feedback after their events end. Oh, hey, there's, I was at your event, I noticed these things, let's talk about ways that we could, improve for your next event on campus. And then we have the President's Sustainability Committee. And this is our university-wide committee made up of faculty, staff, and students that are advocating for sustainable change on campus and really doing a lot of great work to make our university more sustainable. We have 4 working groups under the President's Sustainability Committee, and one of them is for sustainable events. And so this working group is in charge of what I'll be talking about on our next slide. But this is a group of event planners and students and people who are really interested in events on campus and trying to, get all events on campus to think about and apply some of these sustainable practices. You're probably wondering what this picture on the slide is, and that is a picture from our free store on campus called Second Wave Supplies. And this is located in our library and is operated purely off of donations from individuals or offices on campus. And we get a lot of office supplies when offices move around campus, when people leave the university, they have a lot of that old stuff that they just didn't use up to give away. And so we take those items and we store it in second wave supplies and we give it out to anyone on campus for free. Like I said, it's a lot of office and school stuff, but we are amassing more and more decorations from events. And so on the picture here are boxes of decorations for different holidays and events on campus. And so this is free for people to just come and grab. We're trying to encourage people to also then donate the items that they have left over at the end of their event that they did not use. We have tablecloths and wall decorations and all sorts of event tchotchkes sort of things that are just left over. And so this is a great way to reuse what we have. We're planning on doing, so in the cart on the picture, those are all of our Halloween decorations at the moment. So we put those front and center so people can easily get those now. And then the week after Halloween, we're going to be doing a Halloween costume and decoration collection push. So people who are taking down their decorations, maybe don't want those costumes anymore, can drop it off at Second Wave. And then we'll keep those things for next Halloween and just do it again. So some good resource sharing there at Second Wave Supplies. And then every event planner obviously has a role to play in the events that they're putting on, what they're choosing to do or not do at their events. So working with every event planner is key in a sustainable event. So what does this look like on our campus? We have a sustainable events blueprint that lays out what event planners should be thinking about in terms of sustainable events. This is on the UACE website. And so again, that's showing our great working relationship between UACE and the Sustainability Office, that they put out the resources, tips, and tricks on what to do to make your event more sustainable. And Elizabeth ran through a lot of the ones that are on this website too. So really nice that there's overlap between our universities there. So then there is a sustainable event questionnaire that event planners can fill out. It covers about 8 different topics, from energy and water and waste and food, and it asks the event planners questions about what they're doing at their event or not doing at their event. So if your event has food, is there compostable eating wear? Is your event close to bike racks and mass transit, et cetera, et cetera? It goes through a long list of questions, and each question gets you a point if you answer it in the affirmative. So yes, we are doing this. Yes, we are doing that. Then you would get a point for each one of those answers. And then the sum of your points gets you to what level of sustainable event you have. So bronze, silver, gold, and then platinum. And when they fill out that questionnaire, they will then receive their score, and then they will get a link to these icons they can put into their marketing so they can advertise that their event is a sustainable event. And then and then step 4 is just enjoying the event. And I'd say, with that is being mindful of how did this event go? What happened, and what can we do next time to make your event a little bit more sustainable? I really like Elizabeth's mantra of why am I just blanking on it? Sorry, Elizabeth, on that.
Progress, not perfection.
Progress, there you go. Yes, thank you. Progress, not perfection. And so, that is what every event should strive to do, is to just keep on looking at those ways that we can improve and make progress. Maybe from going a bronze to a silver would be amazing by just doing X, Y, or Z other things. So how do people know that this event designation is there? The UACE folks have integrated the sustainable event language into our event reservation system. And so when event planners are going in to reserve their spaces to add their events to the university calendar, they have to fill out this event request. And so on that, it highlights that there is the sustainable events blueprint, and it encourages every event planner to fill it out. It is not mandatory, but it is strongly encouraged on that platform. And then when the UA staff gets the event request, they then follow up with an email saying, hey, if you haven't already, please make sure that you're filling out our sustainable events questionnaire. So it's being reinforced a couple of times over. So people are seeing that we truly want them to be filling this out and doing it. And then where we're going with our sustainable events blueprint is we're focusing on trying to streamline it and make it a little bit more time efficient. I think that most event planners have a lot going on their plates, and so adding more is always a big ask. And so we want to make this as easy as we can while still getting good information and getting event planners to change a few things here or there for their events. So we're looking at how to shorten the questionnaire some, maybe how we can tailor it more to each kind of event instead of just this one big questionnaire that's capturing everything. Some of those questions aren't relevant for every event. So how can we tailor that a little bit more so we avoid some of that stuff that doesn't make sense for each event? And then, like Elizabeth, I have some tips and tricks and things that we can think about when we're planning events. And so planning early, obviously, doing early planning for just event planning is best practice, but that also means for sustainability in your event as well. You should plan early for that. So at the onset, when you start planning your event, you should be talking about sustainability and set some goals. You don't have to do everything all in your first event. You can set, like, ooh, I want to try out this, or I want to try out that. And my goal for this event is to explore, a vegetarian meal and see how that goes and what was the feedback for it. And then for your next event, tweak that so it's more in alignment with what you and your attendees are looking for. So planning early and setting those intentions at the onset. I'm sure that you've all had people come in at the last minute and say, wouldn't it be great if you did X for your event? And you're like, that's a good idea. I wish you had talked to me 2 months ago about that. So that's the same thing here. Thinking about this right at the end of your event planning is going to not have your event be as sustainable as it could if you started from the beginning. The location of the event makes a really big difference here. Thinking about, inside versus outside. We in California are really lucky to have such amazing weather most of the year that we can hold events outside. And with an outside event, that means that you're not, using as much energy, and you, are making this new environment for people to be in. And so, but if you can't be outside, looking for event spaces that have natural light, so you don't have to use as many lights. Thinking about accessibility for different kinds of transportation. Are you close to mass transit? Are there bike racks around? That sort of stuff. So you can create these opportunities for people to engage in sustainability. Marketing, thinking about how you're getting your event out there. Digital marketing versus flyering. I don't advocate for a complete ban on flyers, but I advocate for smart use of flyering. Are we putting it on every single board in every single area and papering the whole campus with it? That's probably overkill. And so identifying those target areas where people go to read a flyer, so you are getting the most bang for your buck out of that paper use. But then using online digital ways of marketing your event cuts down on that waste. And then swag, the bane of every sustainability professional. Swag creates a lot of waste. If we think about most swag items, they are cheapen plastic, and those will end up in a landfill really quickly. And so I try to advocate for thinking about one large raffle prize to give away at events instead. You still have that enticement of, you know, the idea of someone getting something for free, but it becomes even, I think, a larger draw because you can have one larger, nicer item. And so you can say, hey, come to our event and you could win new Beats by Dre headphones or something. So you can, you know, pull in people with that idea of free stuff without having to go the route of swag. You know, I know that people also like to hand out things to each person, so you could think about something more along the lines of food, handing out food, something people could eat and consume in that moment. There'll be a little bit of waste, you know, with that in terms of food packaging or a plate or napkin, that sort of stuff. But that is still better than all of the plastic waste that comes out of traditional swag items. Food, this is one that I think that we can really make a great culture change on college campuses. I think there's a lot of curiosity about vegetarian and vegan food, but there are some big barriers there for most people who are just getting into vegetarian and vegan food. You know, they don't know what to make and how to cook it and good recipes. And so working with your dining staff on making really delicious vegetarian and vegan food showcases a sustainable action that people can take even after your event ends. And so it's like, oh, I had that amazing veggie lasagna and I loved it, and now I want to go home and make that for my family. So we can highlight something like that because meat and dairy are the most environmentally harmful of our food chain. So thinking about how we can integrate more of this, thinking about using, if you want meat, thinking more of it as a garnish than the main focus of a meal. And then other things to keep in mind are, you know, the eating ware. What is it made out of, and where will it go when people want to dispose of it? And the one thing that I always talk with event planners about is trying to avoid single-use water. It's harmful in so many ways, both from the microplastics to the chemicals found in plastic water bottles, which is leaching into our water, to just the human rights around where that water is coming from and who had rights to that water that were taken away when those water companies came in and extracted it out of environments. So a lot you can do with food. And I think with some creative chefs, you can do a lot of really, really good food that your attendees would love and not even realize that there was no meat in the food. Decorations, not putting dates on things means that you can reuse them again next year. So if you're doing an annual event and you have a T-shirt for your volunteers, don't put the year on it. Just say volunteer, and so you can use those again. Same for large decorations and things. Avoid dating it really quickly. We also say no balloons, confetti, or glitter on campus. They are just harmful. We are 1 mile away from Monterey Bay. Those things will get into our water system and hurt our marine ecosystems immediately. So those things are things that we tell event planners on campus you just cannot do. However, for events, I know people like something like balloons, and I'm dropping into the chat right now just one link to a reusable balloon company. So there are some ways that you can still do some of these decorations and do it in a reusable fashion. And that's what second wave supply is all about, showing that decorations are not just a one-time thing. You can keep them, store them, use them over and over again, which is also good for your event budget. And then waste. This is one of the ones that I find that a lot of event planners may not think about until the day of the event. They come into their event space, they start setting up, and then they're like, okay, I need to throw away a couple items. Where are our waste bins? It can become a second thought. So making sure that your event spaces are equipped with 3 bin waste streams, so your attendees and yourself can landfill, recycle, and compost. But even before that, thinking about what you're buying will become waste. So thinking about those items that you're purchasing, think about it. Okay, well, what bin will this go into when I have to throw it away? And are there alternatives that would, go into a different bin? So if your item is a landfill item, maybe look to see if there might be some similar thing that might go into our recycling bin instead. Just thinking about waste, though, early on will just make sure that that essential service is there when you need it. And then you've done all this hard work. It's not always easy to see for event attendees. So promote your efforts. Tell your attendees in the invitation, in the event marketing, hey, bring your reusable water bottles, bring your X, Y, or Z things. Consider walking to the event. Whatever you want to tell your event attendees. And then on the day of, when you're doing your welcome announcement at your event, include some of those things that you have worked on. So talk about that the compost items for the event are X, Y, and Z, and they go into a green compost bin, or talk about the reasons why you did certain things. So you're highlighting what you've done so people know it. And that is all that I have. So I'll turn it back over, and I believe we're heading into questions and answers. So happy to chat more.
Yeah, so folks, if you have any questions, if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask away, please feel free to do so. Or if you have a question that you don't want to be tied to, put it into the Q&A box and I will ask for you. So if it's a silly question, you don't have to take the hit. I will for you in a good way. So we do have one though. How would you kind of market your events when you want your guests to know like this is going to be a zero waste event and kind of prep folks? Is there any type of marketing that you or language that you put on your marketing to kind of let your attendees know that things might be a little different? And that could be either Derek or Miss Elizabeth, please answer.
I kind of covered it a little bit when we, like, if we send out an email, we'll have like what's for lunch, BYOB, like where to park and how to take transit. But if it's like an event for students, they really like social media, putting out a post of it's a zero waste event, asking people to join us, like instead of position it in a way was like join us in reaching our zero waste goals, like making it fun, like Derek said, like making it fun and engaging, not like we're at 50% diversion, we need to get to 90 and you need to do everything, and making it so like stressful to get people to participate and do the right thing. So putting out messaging like join us in reaching our zero waste goals, this is going to be a zero waste event, and having some grace if people show up and they didn't know, or like this is the first zero waste event that they've been to, like, okay, not making people feel left out if they do come to your event and they're not prepared, or it's the first event of their type. So
Yeah, I think Elizabeth just covered it really nicely, and just want to add a +1 to making sure that you're feeling like you're being hospitable and welcoming. I've had people feel like when you talk to them about like, oh, you're sorting items wrong, they can get defensive. And so if they're coming into your event and they don't have the same items as everybody else, a water bottle, their own silverware, whatever it may be, just know that they could feel a little defensive. So yeah, just being hospitable with, oh, don't worry, we have some extras on the side here for the next time, yada yada yada.
Awesome.
and then also communicating with the audience. Like we did have an instance where we had an all hands meeting where we switched from we took away the plastic water bottles that we were providing in the past and did the BYOB and refill station. And it didn't go over well with this team. They're like, oh, budget cuts are so bad now we can't even get water bottles. And it's like, no, that's not the purpose. Like, we need to reach our zero waste goals. So just be communicative with your team to let them know why we are making these changes, because they're going to have an assumption as to why there was that change. So it wasn't because of budget cuts, it's because we want to reach our zero waste goals, and getting rid of the single-use plastic on campus is one of my big priorities. And then they were like, oh, okay. And then the next time they were, oh, I get it. But the first time around, they're like freaking out a little bit, but now they know why we're doing what we're doing.
Awesome. And do you guys have a for the ambassadors for the programs, depending on the size of group, do you have a number that you like to see? So if there's 100 guests, do you usually try to schedule, 3 to 4 ambassadors, or do you have a breakdown on kind of what works?
It depends on the type of event and if they're serving food or not. If it's an event where it's a lot of tabling, a lot of like outreach, you're not serving food, we can do up to a 200-person event with 5 people, 5 different stations, because there's not a lot of waste there. But if you have an event where you're serving quite, food and there's packaging, like for example, we had a 7-day orientation at one of our colleges. And last year they had box lunches, and we did not take enough recycling bins to accommodate all of the box lunches. So there was like an overflow of box lunches. Best practice for this year, when the same college was putting together their event, we advised them to do a la carte. Their recycling went down by 95%. And we did a lot more with the same amount, the same team and the same amount of bins. They just made that change in procurement. We do have if it's an event that is 200 or more, we do require, so we have other student workers on campus that do econauts or sustainability fellows. So sometimes they partner to work on sustainability events, or they'll contract out Eventbrite. No, not Eventbrite. There's Bright Events. I believe that's what we use here on campus. And they'll have like additional zero waste stations, and then we'll put volunteers there if the event is of a larger scale. We also did, for one of the picnics that I mentioned, we sent out a form for our leadership. Hey, we're having it was a zero waste event bin. We need people to help sort. We had some directors working, and the employees really like to see that our directors are taking it seriously. And they did like 30-minute shifts at the zero waste stations, and they really understood how difficult it is to direct people and the signage, and like everybody's just trying to throw away the trash. That was really successful because you engage different people around the organization to do their part in zero waste. So you can also take that approach if you want to do volunteers. Just send out a Google form, who's interested. We did a simple training. This is what's going to be served. This is where it goes. This is where the map is. This is where the zero waste events bins are. We gave them t-shirts, and it was a good, successful event.
Awesome. Are there any other questions for our amazing presenters? All right. If you missed any of today's presentation, don't worry. We've recorded today, and it will be up on the CSU-UC EPN intranet shortly. Give us about 48 hours to get that posted, as well as the slide deck, so you can review all of this great information again. Just as a reminder, the CSU-UC EPN Hot Topics is going to take a little bit of a hiatus during November and December. So plan on joining us again back on January 22nd of 2026, when we'll be presenting our next hot topic, which will be reset and recharge, taking wellness strategies for the new semester. Thank you so much again for joining us. We wish everyone a wonderful couple next months until the next year. And don't forget, the amazing conference is coming up. It's going to be July 8th and 9th of 2026. So please make sure your calendars are blocked. Thanks so much again to Elizabeth and to Derek and to everyone. Have a great day, great weekend. Happy Halloween if you celebrate. But yeah, have fun. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.